Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
This is a continuation of the public panel interview by the Judicial and Bar Council of candidates for the position of Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals, the Court of Tax Appeals, and the Sandigan Bayan. Your Honors, the candidates for interview this afternoon are the following. Judge Philip A. Aguinaldo, a candidate for Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals and the Sandigan Bayan. And Judge Rowena M. Apaw Adlawan, a candidate for Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals. Your Honors, before that, may I request the candidates to please raise your right hand so that I can administer the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this public panel interview by the Judicial and Bar Council?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. So help you God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honors, the first to be interviewed will be Judge Aguinaldo, and the first to interview him will be the Honorable Judge Franklin de Monteverde. Judge de Monteverde, sir.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Ed.
Thank you, sir.
Is that you, Judge Aguinaldo?
Yes, Your Honor.
I thought for a while I was looking at the former Senator June Magsaysay.
Thank you for the compliment, Your Honor.
Okay, Judge, I heard that you were shortlisted before.
Yes, Your Honor.
So when was the last time that you were interviewed?
That was last year, Your Honor. And in fact, I am still listed in the 4 vacant positions of the Court of Appeals right now. That was the time when there were 8 vacancies and the Honorable President appointed only 4.
Okay. Had I interviewed you?
No, Your Honor. It's our first time to meet.
Well, the four remaining associate justices to be appointed were interviewed by us. I was already in the Judicial and Bar Council.
There were only 3 who interviewed me, Your Honor.
Only 3?
Yes,
when was the interview?
That was, I think, last year or maybe the other year, Your Honor.
Because I was appointed July of last year. And
yes,
the others who were shortlisted and still awaiting for to my recollection, still waiting for the appointments are 2 Ongs, Michael Ong, Jenny Ong, Robert of the LRA. Were you in that group?
I don't think so, Your Honor. I have never seen the list submitted to the President. I was just interested in my name only, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
So probably you were shortlisted before that.
Yes, Your Honor, perhaps. Yes, Your Honor.
Not for the remaining 4. Anyway, let's go to your medical records. You were in that group diagnosed to be diabetic type 2.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hypertensive 2 with hyperlipidemia, and it was suggested that cardiology consult if chest pain and difficulty breathing arise. Do you have a problem with your respiratory tract?
Fortunately, Your Honor, I have no problem with that.
How about diabetes?
It's being controlled right now, Your Honor. And I take in Lantus, and that is an injection of 40 units every day. And
how often?
once a day, Your Honor.
3 times a day. Once only.
once a day with Lantus, and there are three. There's another type of injection which is Shilin, Your Honor, and that would be every before every meal.
So you are taking insulin shots 3 times or 4 times a day?
It's 4 times a day, Your Honor.
Okay. So your blood sugar level must be high.
As of now, Your Honor, it's perfectly normal. This morning, I had my test, Your Honor, and it was normal.
So you don't feel any discomfort, any sleepiness.
No, Your Honor, fortunately. And God thanks, Your Honor, I don't have sleepiness.
Okay. So what is your blood sugar level now?
This morning, it was 77, Your Honor.
Wow. That's good. So going further with your medical records, it says here that your urinalysis have glucose. FBS is high. That
Yes,
means
Your Honor.
the conditions relative to a diabetic.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is this mean corpuscular about volume, CBC? You know anything about this?
No, Your Honor, it was not explained to me by the doctor, but the doctor said that everything can be normalized with the proper nutrition and proper medicine.
There are many ailments that are being recorded here in your record, and this might hamper your effectivity as a judge if you were to be promoted later on. Will it not?
With Your Honor, with the proper medicine, proper exercise, and proper dieting, I can manage, Your Honor.
Are you sure of that?
Yes, Your Honor. And
How
in
long have you been a diabetic, Judge?
about well, more than 10 years ago, Your Honor. More
More
than
than
10
10
years
years.
already. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, your records shows that you have still some problems, not only in diabetes and urinalysis, but also in your ECG, electrocardiogram, and chest X-ray.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mhm. Anyway, these are your medical results, and I hope that everything will be all right, no?
Yes,
Because
Your Honor.
work at the appellate courts is very taxing. Mental strain, pressure, mhm, stress, and stress is the number one enemy of diabetes.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
So you're applying for a court of appeals and Sandigan Bayan?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
If given the opportunity, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Judge, you are the presiding judge of the RTC in Muntinlupa, Branch 207.
Yes, Your Honor.
And how long have you been there?
I was appointed in 2002. This is my 18th year, Your Honor.
How come you were never appointed?
Well, I just don't know, Your Honor. I would just say that it's not my time. And I would say only God knows if I would be appointed to the appellate court, Your Honor.
How many times had you applied for the appellate court?
Many times, I think I was shortlisted for 4 or 5 times already, Your Honor, but no luck.
Okay. Probably in in due time,
Yes,
you'll
Your
be
Honor.
lucky. Uh-huh.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you,
So
Your Honor.
what's your caseload now, Judge?
I have about 400 cases, Your Honor, presently.
Okay. And when did you pass the bar?
That was in 1984, and I took the bar exams in 1983, Your Honor.
1983, but you were already a junior associate of the Aguinaldo Law Office.
Yes,
Is
Your
this
Honor.
your father's law office?
It's the cousin of my father, Your Honor.
Okay. You were already, even if not yet a lawyer, you were already connected with it.
Yes, Your Honor, but it was basically a research assignment.
Okay. From there, where did you go?
I went to a private practice for some short time all by myself. Then later on, I applied to the Department of Justice, where I stayed there for about 9 years, Your Honor. Then after that, I applied to the judiciary.
Okay. Your record shows that you were an attorney 1 and 2 at the Supreme Court.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And for how long did you stay there?
3 years, Your Honor.
I'm looking at your scholastic record, and it says here that you studied at the University of Minnesota.
Yes, Your Honor.
Humphrey, you were a Fulbright program scholar or student?
It was more of a fellowship, Your Honor.
A fellowship only. Okay. And during college, what was the course that you took?
I took up AB Political Science in my undergrad.
Mm-hmm. So you were an outstanding student then.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Judge, there is a pending case against you by a certain filed by a certain Kaiser John Marquez or Marquez for grave misconduct in
Yes,
relation to a criminal Marquez, no? In relation to a criminal case for
Marquez.
violation of Republic Act 7610.
Yes,
Briefly
Your Honor.
tell us about it. This is still pending, huh?
Yes, Your Honor, it's pending. Well, this is a case wherein the complainant charged me with bias because during the pretrial, the opposing counsel entered into some stipulations with the complainant. And one of the questions was whether or not the son of the complainant was actually quarreling with his uncle inside the bus. And the complainant said yes. Then later on the following day, the complainant came to the court and she would like to change her admission. But I told her, Your Honor, that she cannot change the admission without giving notice to the other party. In fact, she even filed a petition. She even filed a motion for my inhibition, and I denied the inhibition, Your Honor. So she wanted that the case should not be handled by me, and I just don't know with whom the case will be ruffled later on. So she filed an administrative case against me, all because of that problem with regard to her mistake, according to her, in admitting that her son and the uncle of her son were quarreling inside the bus. Well, actually, Your Honor, I even convicted accused. And during the promulgation of judgment, I told the complainant that the motion for investigation was already resolved, and a copy of my resolution was sent to the office of the court administrator. And practically, Your Honor, the complaint was not even served on me. I just came to know that there is a case filed against me because when I applied for my certification from the office of the court administrator, that was the first time that I came to know that there's a case filed against me, Your Honor.
So, what is the status now, Judge? If
Uh,
you
it,
know.
it remains pending, but when I asked Attorney Pimentel of the Supreme Court what will happen to that case, Attorney Pimentel told me that it will be resolved in my favor because it is actually a complaint based on the application of the pretrial rule in under the continuous trial rule, Your Honor. And he told me that the case, just like in other cases, will just be dismissed by the Supreme Court. And
Yes,
even
but this appears in your record, Judge.
yes,
It's
Your
not
Honor.
good
And
to look at, no,
yes,
and
it's
it may affect your application. So I would suggest that you follow this up to the Supreme Court, no.
yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Uh, okay, there were also some cases wherein you inhibited from hearing. Now, what were the reasons for your inhibition?
Well, one case, Your Honor, is with regard to a case filed by my own staff, filed against my own staff in court. And just to uphold neutrality, I had to inhibit, Your Honor. And
Mhm.
there was another case, Your Honor, wherein the parties come from Ayala Alabang, and the complainant in that case attributed something against me, particularly bias again. So I told him that I have to inhibit and assign the case to another judge in Muntinlupa. Unfortunately, when the case was assigned to another judge, that another judge again inhibited, and it was again assigned to another judge, and that other judge again inhibited. Practically, it's a case wherein the complainant would like to delay the early resolution of the case by filing so many motions of inhibition when the case is assigned to another judge.
Okay. Are you aware that the Supreme Court frowns on judges who inhibit from hearing cases before them?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, I furnish a copy of my resolution to the Supreme Court every time I issue an order for my inhibition.
Okay. And what is your personal parameter in inhibiting yourself from hearing a case?
Well, it's basically whether or not I would be able to decide the case squarely in accordance with the cold neutrality of a fair judge. But basically, I have to ask my conscience if I can decide the case squarely, so that I'm not in any way affected by the allegations in the motion or even in the complaint, Your Honor.
Okay. Now let's go to your SALN. Uh, there's an increase of about 2 million
Yes, Your Honor.
from 2018 to 2019. Could you
Yes, Your
explain the
Honor.
increase?
Well, basically, Your Honor, I live a very simple life. I live in my ancestral house, and everything is provided for by my brother. So practically, I don't have any expense involved in my personal maintenance. And at the same time, Your Honor, I'm single, so I have no other expenses except for myself, and I keep all my salaries for myself.
You're still single, Judge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how old are you now?
I'm 62, Your Honor.
62. Better find a companion because it would be hard growing old without somebody taking care of you.
Yes, Your Honor. I
Okay.
understand.
Okay. Now, Judge, a concerned group comprising of women and legislators is pushing to put into law the abolition of child marriage in the country. Do you think this bill, if passed, can be harmonized with the existing customs and traditions of the various groups living in our country, and even with the other laws, including the Code of Muslim Personal Laws, which specifically provides for a legal basis in child marriage?
I agree with the proposal, Your Honor, because
In what way?
because in the first place, the law would be a means of social engineering, because there may be a force to reckon with in the passing of that law. Then, secondly, we have to protect the future generation of the country, because a child who is born out of early marriage would suffer so many physical and mental defects, because the womb of the mother is not yet ready to carry the fetus. And
Mhm.
Thirdly, Your Honor, if and when there would be help, assistance, or aid on the part of the government through education, then I believe that it will be able to become a successful piece of legislation in this country, Your Honor.
Now, going to another topic, have you experienced finding yourself in a competitive situation professionally?
Well, always, Your Honor, particularly when I decide cases, because when I decide cases, I have to think that the cases will not only affect the persons involved in the case, but it will affect the whole family, particularly so if I decide a case wherein the accused is really guilty, Your Honor, and I don't think only of the accused, but I think of the family that will be affected by my decision. So that is a case where I am really affected. But of course, I could not do anything. I would just say do relax, said Lex, because that is my duty. But I am really affected by my decision personally, but not professionally, Your Honor. I have to think of those affected.
Okay, my last question. What is it in you that could convince me to include you in my shortlist?
First of all, Your Honor, I am a member of the academe, and I studied the law diligently because I don't want my students to say that I am in the same level as they are. Secondly, Your Honor, my experience as a former senior state prosecutor for about 9.5 years at the Department of Justice exposed me to criminal law and procedure, and at the same time practice. Then, with my 18 years as a regional trial court judge, I am able to see the intricacies in the application of the law, and at the same time in the effects in the application of the law to the lives of so many people. And fourthly, Your Honor, I believe that I have the moral qualification to be a justice of the Court of Appeals or the Sandigan Bayan.
Okay, Judge Aguinaldo, that was my last question. Thank you for your time. Good luck and stay safe.
Thank you, Your Honor. Stay safe also.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, Your Honor, Judge De Monteverde.
Thank
We
you,
will now
Attorney.
give the floor to Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Dihan. Your
Thank
Honor,
you, Attorney Ann.
welcome.
Good
Your Honor.
afternoon,
Good
Judge.
afternoon. Good afternoon, Justice Tiham. It's nice to see you again.
I have interviewed you many times in the past. I know you're qualified,
Yes, Your Honor.
and you clinch it when you mentioned that you've been in the academe, and I'm the member in the JBC representing the academe.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Um, you just a few questions. You narrated that experience of a case being passed from one judge to the other as a
Yes, Your
result
Honor.
of repeated inhibitions. What do you suggest? What measures can you suggest to prevent or avoid judge shopping instead of forum shopping, judge shopping? What measures do you suggest should be adopted?
You know, Your Honor, it's like this. An ordinary judge would not really inhibit from a case. Unfortunately, there are ways invented by litigants to make the judge inhibit from a particular case. I remember one case like this, Your Honor. The proceedings were done very smoothly. Then later on, the counsel for the petitioner instigated me to lose my temper. But of course, I know that that is a tactic. And I just told that lawyer that this is a free and democratic country. And I told him that if he does not want to see me, then he could just file a motion for my inhibition. And that is really a problem, really, Your Honor. And at the same time, we are just human beings to entertain some kind of animosity between lawyers and judges, so that it would be better on the part of the judges to just inhibit. But of course, there should be a reason for that, Your Honor, because we are so much afraid also of the repercussion of filing an administrative case against the judge. But thankfully, Your Honor, there is the circular issued by the Supreme Court furnishing a copy of our order inhibiting ourselves to the office of the court administrator, and the court administrator's office would determine whether or not the basis for the motion for inhibition is meritorious. And I think that is one way wherein judges would be deterred from just coming out with an order of inhibition. And I agree with the Office of the Court Administrator and, of course, the Supreme Court that the order of inhibition should really be approved by the court administrator, or it should pass through the court administrator to determine its merit. And one way also, Your Honor.
That's why the JBC keeps track of inhibitions made by judges, because we take that into account also.
Yes,
Now,
Your Honor.
the next question, Judge Philip, is, have you heard about the proposal to the Supreme Court to promulgate a writ of kalayaan? Have you heard about it? Being pushed by a group of family members of political detainees. Have you heard about it?
Yes, Your Honor. It's a writ of kalayaan. They are asking the court to issue orders for the release of these particularly political detainees and the overstaying prisoners in detention centers. But that should be counterbalanced by the duty of the judge to determine the merit of the particular case. Well, I think the better way, Your Honor, is to improve the way the judicial system works rather than for the issuance of the writ of kalayaan, because the writ of kalayaan would practically force judges to release, in some instances, undeserved inmates.
But
So,
the
yes.
justice himself, in coordination with the court administrator, has ordered the release of many detainees during this period of pandemic. Correct? It's
Yes.
a fact.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. We have been ordered by the court, by the Office of the Court Administrator to do it. But unfortunately, some undeserving inmates were released, and I believe it's more of the conditions in the jail rather than going into the merit of the case.
Will it amount to class legislation if such a writ of kalayaan is adopted and promulgated by the Supreme Court?
Well, I don't think so, Your Honor, as long as there is a parameter to that, and the release of prisoners would be based on substantial grounds, Your Honor. And some measures should be placed in the issuance of the writ of kalayaan, Your Honor.
Is it within the constitutional mandate of the Supreme Court, in the exercise of its rulemaking power, to adopt such kind of a writ, the writ of kalayaan, in your opinion?
I think so, Your Honor, because the issuance of a writ of kalayaan, I believe that it is a procedural aspect rather than a substantive aspect. And it would determine how long a particular prisoner would be detained while his case is pending before the court, Your Honor.
Does it protect, does it enforce, if it is adopted, constitutional rights?
I think so, Your Honor. On the other hand, it will affect constitutional right, particularly the right to life, liberty, and the right to pursue happiness on the part of the prisoner. However, it will also affect the right to security on the part of the private complainants who have meritorious cases against those persons who are really detained, Your Honor. So there should be a balance with regard to that, Your Honor.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether people accused of non-bailable offense should continue to remain in detention, notwithstanding the constitutional presumption of innocence, considering that bail, the purpose of bail, is simply to ensure the attendance, the presence of the accused during hearing or during trial. Is there a rational basis for putting those accused of non-bailable offenses in detention while the trial is going on, even if there is a presumption of innocence?
Well, I would say, Your Honor, that the presumption of innocence was somewhat lessened, if there is a word lessened, because the accused passed through a preliminary investigation conducted by the office of the prosecutor, and at the same time, Your Honor, the issuance of a warrant of arrest, which is actually a prerogative on the part of the judiciary, as the second type of probable cause, would answer whether or not the accused who is accused in a heinous crime should remain in prison. Well, that is also in accordance with the way in which the government would be able to maintain security in our society, and at the same time, the peace of mind on the part of the private complainants who filed the case against that accused who is accused in a heinous crime.
So you're saying that the presumption of innocence is not something permanent during the period of trial. It is somewhat diluted once it has already been
Well,
the information is filed in court.
well, that is my view, Your Honor, because no criminal case can be filed unless there is a probable cause established by
But does
the.
probable cause invalidate or dilute the constitutional presumption of innocence?
Well, I don't think so, Your Honor. There is still the constitutional presumption of innocence, but if there is such a word, the presumption of innocence is somewhat lessened in that case because of the finding of probable cause made by the public prosecutor and the probable cause in issuing a warrant of arrest by the judge.
But if the only reason for the non-bailable offense is because of the severity, the gravity of the offense allegedly to have been committed, and the reason, and even that non-bailable offense is not really absolute, correct? It's only when the
Yes, Your
evidence
Honor.
of guilt is strong. Okay. Since the purpose
Yes, Your Honor.
of the law is to ensure the presence of the accused, is it not sufficient to just confiscate, number one, the passport of the accused, issue a whole departure order, and direct the accused to be under home quarantine, just like this period of pandemic, and to wear a monitoring device, just like what they're doing abroad, and things like that? Will that not suffice to ensure that the accused will not take flight and flee from the jurisdiction of the court, but at the same time ensure his presence during trial and hearing, and at the same time support the constitutional presumption of innocence?
I would say, Your Honor, that it would not suffice because the purpose of putting people who are probably
But not
guilty is
putting
not.
people who have not yet been convicted.
Yes, Your Honor. However, I would still stick with that probable cause issue. And at the same time, one of the purposes in our criminal law is exemplary. In other words, Your Honor, it must be seen by the public that we mean business in maintaining peace and order in the community.
But there is empirical evidence that some people accused of non-bailable offenses were ultimately acquitted, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. I agree with that, Your Honor.
So how do you compensate for the period of confinement, even when in the ultimate end it is established that he was innocent after all? How do you compensate for that?
Well, it's really very hard to say, Your Honor, but I just would say the best compensation would be the acquittal made by the court and the restoration of the good name of that person after being acquitted. It
All
is
right.
something that it cannot be quantified, Your Honor.
All right. My last question, Attorney Judge Philip.
Yes, Your
Also,
Honor.
uh, interviewed you many times in the past. You're joining an appellate court. What would you take into account to dissent from the majority? When will you dissent from the majority?
I just follow my own standard, but of course that standard must be in accordance with jurisprudence, particularly stare decisis, my conscience with regard to the guilt or innocence of a person, and the totality of the evidence presented, Your Honor. And I would not in any way be swayed by the members of the division where I will be assigned, because after all, it is my conscience that will determine my decision, and not on their own decision, Your Honor.
But from the court's perspective, from the point of view of the public, why should there be a dissent in a division when the same magistrates are looking at the same evidence, when the same magistrates are aware of the same kind of law and jurisprudence? Why do you think there is still dissension? There is a dissent in
Yes,
the
Your Honor.
evaluation of cases by an appellate court. That is
Yes, Your
something
Honor.
the public
Yes.
does not understand, because the public might suspect that there is ulterior motive either on the part of the majority or on the part of the minority. So what are your views on that?
Well, there would still be, uh, I would say, individuality on the part of the judges, because in most instances, in some instances, I'm sorry, Your Honor, in some instances, the view of the minority may become the view adopted by the majority in later cases. And that will be the best way wherein the dissenter justice would say, well, I was right in the first place. So I would say, Your Honor, that the membership in a collegial body should not in any way destroy the individuality, particularly the way a particular justice views a certain circumstance or interpret a particular law. I would say, Your Honor, that this is a free and democratic country, and we can still come out with our own interpretation and our own appreciation of the facts of the case.
All right. Thank you very much, Judge Philip.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you for your time and good luck.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Justice Bingham. We now turn the conduct of the interview over to Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilaw Jr.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Yan.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Yeah, good afternoon, Judge Philip Aguinaldo.
Yes, Your Honor.
We meet again, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. It is unfortunate that I was not appointed in the appellate court.
Well, but there is still a pending one, as you said, before the Malacanang, and for consideration of Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals. There are two still remaining four positions.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Are there any notable changes in your qualifications since your last interview? That was 2019, if I'm not being
Yes,
mistaken.
yes, Your Honor. I don't consider any circumstance that would be a change in my status as an applicant because I consider every case as something that should be treated with um, full appreciation of the facts of the case and the proper interpretation of a particular law. I cannot remember any particular case which would stand out in the cases assigned to me. But as mentioned a while ago, Your Honor, there is this administrative case filed by a disgruntled litigant in my court, and that was asked a while ago, Your Honor. And practically, I don't even know the content of that complaint because I was not served a copy of the complaint, and the Office of the Court Administrator has not informed me of that complaint, except when I went to the Office of the Court Administrator to ask uh, a certification that I have no pending case. I was just informed that there is a pending case, Your Honor. So that is the only change that happened in my professional life after you interviewed me way back in 2019, Your Honor.
But you appear to be one of the top notchers among the applicants in terms of number of admissive cases filed against you.
Yes, Your
Why do
Honor.
you think this is the case?
Well, I cannot also
Is it part of
understand, Your Honor, because we cannot control the minds of people, and maybe because of the economic status and the part of litigants in Muntinlupa, because most of the complainants come from the rich villages in Muntinlupa, and sometimes I would say that the litigants are not the ones who filed cases against me. The lawyers who did not like my orders are the ones who instigated their clients to file the administrative case against me. But fortunately, Your Honor, in all the cases filed against me, they were all dismissed by the Office of the Court Administrator.
Don't you think it's part of the occupational hazard?
Yes, Your Honor, talagang ganyan yan. Because even
Or rather,
how...
RTC branch 207, it's a family court.
Yes, it's a family court, Your Honor.
Is it a court of a general jurisdiction or a family court?
It is a designated family court, Your Honor. It used to be a court of general jurisdiction, but at the time, there was no family court constituted in the city of Muntinlupa, so that when the family court was constituted in the city of Muntinlupa, the Supreme Court issued an order that I remain a family court, Your Honor.
All right. With your impressive credentials, a Fulbright scholar, consistent honor student, cum laude in your Bachelor of Laws, a lecturer, do you consider yourself more capable than other applicants?
Well, with you, yes, Your Honor, I would say, but I would say that I humbly say that I am more qualified than other applicants because of my experience and my exposure. And at the same time, I would say, Your Honor, that despite so many administrative cases, I am able to maintain my moral dignity.
Alright. You had been shortlisted or previously nominated to Sandigan Bayan twice in 2017 and 2016. You were shortlisted twice in Sandigan Bayan in 2015. And you've been shortlisted in the Court of Appeals in 2003. And why do you think you're not being appointed, Judge?
It's really very hard. Yes, it's really very hard to answer, Your Honor, because when I was shortlisted, I just depended on my own qualification. Though many say that I have to make a move to reach out people very close to the appointing power, but it is very hard to do so, Your Honor, because it is really very hard, yung sinasabi nila, magkaroon ng utang na loob.
But Judge Aguinaldo, you're the only Aguinaldo who came from Ilocos. Any relation to the Aguinaldos of Cavite?
I don't know, Your Honor, but I just remember when Justice Amerfina Aguinaldo Herrera met me, she told me that the father of the late Emilio Aguinaldo came from the province of Ilocos Norte, and that is our roots in the province of Ilocos Norte. But I never asked any further question because I was so ashamed to ask other questions. Very reverend justice, Your Honor. It was just enough that my roots and the roots of the Aguinaldos in Cavite came from the same place.
How about your mother, Acosta? Acostas are from what place? Nueva Vizcaya?
No, Your Honor, from Ilocos Norte, and the Acostas in Nueva Vizcaya came from Ilocos Norte, Your Honor.
Yeah, Acostas from Nueva Vizcaya. They're called Gadang, Boyumbong, or Solano.
Yes, they are from that place, Your Honor. But there was one time when I happened to meet at Borhal of the Philippine Star, because according to the journalist, late Art Borhal, his mother was Acosta, and he asked me where my Acosta comes from, and I told him that from Ilocos Norte, and he said that the mother came from Ilocos Norte also, but that was the limit of our conversation with regard to family relations, Your Honor.
All right, if appointed as an associate justice of the Court of Appeals, how would you use your position in your advocacy on women and children's rights? Because I read your application letter with respect to the advocacy of women and children's rights and to the underprivileged.
Well, I would bring to the Court of Appeals the sensitivity in determining the rights, duties, and obligations of children and women. In other words, Your Honor, I would adapt more of international conventions that would protect the rights of women, and at the same time, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Unfortunately, we don't have sufficient jurisprudence on the matter, so that it would be a case wherein the international conventions will be used by Philippine court for the first time. And I just hope that the decision in the Court of Appeals, particularly with the application of these international conventions, will be recognized by the Appellate Court, Your Honor.
And what programs can you recommend to mainstream the revised procedure for environmental cases?
Okay, so education, Your Honor, and at the same time, awareness on the part of the ordinary Filipino that if we are not environmentally friendly, we will be affected by the by the by by the effects of our non by not being friendly to nature. There is also one problem here, Your Honor, particularly the writ of kalikasan. Well, there is a problem in the implementation of the writ of kalikasan, Your Honor, because one cannot just file a case for the issuance of the writ of kalikasan unless there is the service of lawyers. But in the provinces, Your Honor, before a certain company would exploit the natural resources in that province, they have already hired the services of the lawyers in town, so that when the indigenous people in the community would file a case, they could not find a lawyer because all the lawyers are under the employ, or they have been they have become the retainers of these big companies that destroy our environment. So there should be more awareness, vigilance, and education to be conducted by the government, Your Honor. And at the same time, the appointment of people in the Department of Natural Resources and Environment who are environmentally friendly.
All right. You are a professor, lecturer at UP Law Center, Philja for 10 years, professor of law. And stressing that you are a member of the academy. He kindly differentiate conclusiveness of judgment and bar by prior judgment.
Well, when it comes to conclusiveness of judgment, it is a case where the conclusiveness of judgment is viewed on the side of the I'm sorry, Your Honor. You have here conclusiveness of judgment would be viewed on the yes, on the side of the parties themselves. In other words, it is just like res judicata in civil cases, or even double jeopardy in criminal cases. But with regard to bar by prior judgment, it is simply a case wherein the parties cannot maintain a second or even third case involving the same issues, Your Honor.
All right, you mentioned about res judicata. What is the absence of inconsistency test? Have you come across of this?
Yes, Your Honor, we have to determine whether or not the cause of action are the same, even if they are termed differently, the same parties, and at the same time, yes, Your Honor, those two.
All right. What is the principle of immutability of judgments?
In immutability of judgment, Your Honor, once a judgment becomes final and executory, it can never be changed anymore because cases should be resolved, and at the same time, the decision must put an end to every issue decided by the court. But of course, there are exceptions to that, Your Honor, like the case of non-protunct, wherein some residual powers on the part of the court will still be exercised by the court. But of course, in a case of non-protunct, only innocuous changes can be made.
All right, it's important for a magistrate to always maintain his her legal acumen, which means that we should be abreast with prevailing jurisprudence and law.
Yes, Your Honor.
Could you tell us the most recent case that you have read?
It's well, cases in in November 2020, Your Honor. I cannot remember the exact titles of these cases because I update my reading in the decisions of the Supreme Court following the website of the Supreme Court, Your Honor.
That's not the most recent one, but how did the court pass upon the constitutionality of the PhilSat case of Pimentel versus Legal Education Board? That's only September 10, 2019.
Phil, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I was not able to read that case. Philsat versus Pimentel.
Not having any idea.
No, Your Honor, because in my reading, I was not so much interested in commercial law cases, Your Honor. I'm sorry for that because that is reserved to commercial courts.
Legal Education Board.
No, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
That with respect to the legal education, which the jurisdiction, according to the court, belongs primarily and directly to the political departments. All right. How about your learnings in the case of People versus Apla?
Yes, Your Honor. That is a case involving involving warrantless arrests, and I agree with the decision of the Supreme Court, Your Honor.
Did it totally abrogate the case of Saluday case? Saluday case.
I cannot recall that Saluday case, Your Honor. I may be mistaken with other cases, but I cannot remember the title of that case.
All right, my last question, Judge. How lucky are you and why?
Well, first of all, Your Honor, I was able to reach the age of 62, and taking into account conditions in this country, people who reach the age of 60 or even 50 would already consider themselves lucky because the additional age would just be considered as a bonus. But being a bonus, we are given, well, I am given the opportunity to return to society everything that was bestowed upon me by our Creator in terms of legal services and in terms of helping other people. And secondly, I was able to be appointed as a regional trial court judge in, in Metro Manila. Given by that alone, Your Honor, I would consider it as a great privilege on the part of an individual and an even lawyer for that matter to serve the nation by means of by dispensing justice. And thirdly, which I consider it so important, my peace of mind. And practically, I have no problem, except of course the problem in the way I perform my duties. But personally, I just enjoy everything that I have, and I just enjoy living day by day.
Stressing that you're still single. You're happy
Yes,
and
Your
lucky.
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
And my last question, what are your realizations during this pandemic?
Your Honor, what am I? I'm sorry for that. Kasi sabi kanina, Your Honor.
Realization.
Well, the number one realization, Your Honor, is we are not in control of the situation. And if we are not in control of the situation, we have to surrender ourselves to an Almighty so that we have to take care of ourselves. It is just like saying, you have to do your part and leave everything to God. Then, secondly, the way we have to enjoy our life is connected with the lives of other people. Because today, we just even don't know with whom we deal with, and we just don't even know whether or not the person we deal with is somebody who has COVID-19 or other kinds of sickness. It's a realization that we are the first one who should take care of ourselves. Then, thirdly, it would be a case wherein we have to discipline ourselves, and discipline ourselves is the only way for us to know who we are, because we would be able to know our needs, our desires, and our wants, and we try to discipline and control ourselves. So that would be my realization, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, thank you. And that was my last question. And
Thank you, Your Honor.
thank you and good luck, Judge. Baka naman
Yes,
siguro by this time, you must realize that baka
yes, Your
ma-appoint
Honor.
tayo. Okay,
Sana nga, Your Honor. Thank you.
nominate mo na.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Judge Ilaw. The last to interview Judge Aguinaldo is Honorable Justice Jose Cattrall Mendoza.
So good
Afternoon,
afternoon, Your Honor.
Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Oh, you're still single. I first met you when you appeared in my sala.
That
way
was
back when you were with the Department of Justice.
Yes, Your Honor.
And up to
Thank you.
now, you have been successful in parrying off suitors from the other. I have extensively interviewed you before. You were nominated. I do not know what to cover, but from the questions or from your answers to the questions of my colleagues, maybe just some follow-up. This is personal. Justice Herrera mentioned that the Aguinaldos came from Ilocos Norte, and you did not follow it up.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, Your Honor.
oh. So I will mention another Aguinaldo, who is not from the South, about Governor Rodolfo Aguinaldo.
I met him once, Your Honor, when he was still a congressman, and I was with the Department of Justice at the time, and I happened to be the director of the National Witness Protection Program at the time. So I approached Congressman Aguinaldo in Congress, and I asked him whether or not the Department of Justice would be able to make the security in the security in the witness protection program as organic personnel of the Department of Justice. And he promised that he's going to help me in that endeavor. And he even talked with his researcher at the time to draft a bill, and at the same time, the purpose why the security personnel in the witness protection program should be made organic personnel of the Department of Justice. Unfortunately, he died, Your Honor. He was shot to death.
Yeah. You never knew that he was from Ilocos Norte.
He told me, Your Honor, that he came from the province of Ilocos Norte, and he was just assigned in the province of Cagayan, and he actually even mentioned that I just don't know the truth of this, but according to him, he happened to be the father of the city of Tuguegarao. And according to him, it was he who disciplined and to maintain peace and order in that in the province of Cagayan. But I did not know whether or not he was just joking, but I just believe in him, Your Honor.
Another one from Ilocos Norte, you mentioned were the Acostas of Nueva Vizcaya.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, so do you know Justice Francisco Acosta?
Yes, Your Honor, but I just know the name.
You,
But
you, you do not you do not know if you are related.
and it's the brother, Your Honor.
Oh,
It's Louis, and there
oh,
was
si
one time.
Judge Louis.
Yes, Your Honor, and
Yes.
he used to be in Taguig, and
Justice
actually,
na ngayon, di ba? He's now a justice.
yes, Your Honor.
Justice Louis. Oh,
Actually, we address each other cousin, Your Honor.
yes. Oh. Uh, Aguinaldo. Anak ti Batak. No?
Yes,
You
Your Honor.
are... oh. Uh, your name, you were named after our country.
Yes, Your Honor. That was according to my parents.
See, because your brother was named after MacArthur, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes,
Oh,
Your Honor. I have a brother whose name is MacArthur.
yes. How do you update yourself on recent jurisprudence?
Well, it's good, Your Honor, that there is now a website of the Supreme Court. Unlike before, we have to wait for the SCRA or we have to buy yung mga loose leaf sa mga decisions ng Supreme Court. And I just Googled the decisions of the Supreme Court. And aside from being free, talagang updated, Your Honor. And that is the way that I
Very
update.
good. I was wondering why you mentioned yung PhilSat covered is under the commercial laws.
Well,
PhilSat.
I really don't know that decision, Your Honor, because according to
Ah.
Justice Pilaw, it's 2019 decision.
Yes.
I might have read that, Your Honor, but it slipped my mind.
Maybe you will be able to remember it. You belong to the academy, right?
Yes, Your Honor, but
But you are aware of? Are you aware of the requirements before of the legal education board before you can enroll in the College of Law?
yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
What? Oh, they administered an examination, sort of an entrance examination. That was the subject of the case.
Okay, Your
Which you
Honor.
now you remember it's not a commercial law.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry for that. Yes, I now remember that.
I now you remember. What was the decision in that case?
To tell you frankly, Your Honor, I cannot also remember, but I just remember the way the Supreme Court decided the case, decided a similar case regarding the NMAT. And I simply don't remember anymore, Your Honor, regarding that. I just took it for granted, perhaps. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
The court find that it was unconstitutional. Can you venture a guess why?
Yes, Your Honor, because this is a case involving the circular or administrative matter issued by the Legal Education Board. And the Legal Education Board went beyond the scope of its authority in requiring future students of the College of Law to take the entrance examination.
Why was it declared unconstitutional? Can you venture a guess? Yes. You're in the academy.
Yes,
You're
Your
in the
Honor.
academy.
I cannot. I'm sorry again, Your Honor.
Academic freedom of the schools. That was the reason given.
Okay. Yeah.
PhilSat.
Yes,
I
Your
thought
Honor.
that was very easy for you because you belong to the academy. Anyway, you're not applying in the legal education board.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry for that.
You're applying the Court of Appeals and Sandigan Bayan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, you can easily answer this. There are two. This is just an opinion. In the United States, there were two cases, involving the restrictions in churches. My question: in California, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the state can impose limitations on persons entering, the number of persons entering a church. But a few months later, in an almost similar case involving New York, the United States Supreme Court voted 5-4 that it is an infringement of the right to religion, the exercise of religion. Now in the Philippines, the IATF also imposed restrictions in the church. What can you say? Or are they constitutional or not? The
Well, first, yes, the restrictions, Your Honor, are not really a way to prevent people going inside churches. It is a case of regulation, not a destruction of the constitutional right of religious freedom. And that would be an exercise of police power of the state in times of pandemic. And the state has the right to regulate activities for the purpose of maintaining health in this country, particularly so that there is a scientific basis for that. The 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 if people would stay close with each other, there would be the possibility that COVID would be would happen in the entire community. That is why there should be a way to prevent it, and that is one of the ways to prevent it, Your Honor.
So you agree with in the context of Philippine laws, you agree with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in the California case and disagree with the same court in the New York case?
Yes, I agree with the California court, Your Honor. It's more of an exercise of police power.
Because it does not really infringe on the exercise of a person's religious belief, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Anyway, anybody can just pray anywhere, not necessarily inside churches. So there would be a distinction between the religious freedom to act and the religious freedom to believe. And that is a religious freedom to act, which is within the powers of the state to regulate, but of course not to destroy through police power, Your Honor.
What is the general policy of in the Philippines towards religion?
Well, there should be separation of the church and the state, Your Honor.
Yes, what do you call that policy?
The non-interference policy, Your Honor.
I will lead you. It was decided in Estrada versus Escritor.
Yes, Your Honor, I could remember that case.
Very good.
If and when there is no compelling state interest that is being pursued, then in this case, the government should not in any way intrude into religious affairs.
So COVID is to the prevention of COVID is a compelling state interest.
Well, I believe so, Your Honor, because it is proven by evidence and considering the pronouncement made by experts that before the end of this year, there will be 500,000 people who will be affected by the COVID pandemic.
To prevent the spread of the pandemic, the state or the government ordered the immunization of all persons in the Philippines. And do that.
Your Honor, you were just choppy a while ago. Can you repeat the last
The church mandate the immunization of of all the people in the Philippines, young or old, citizens or not. Oh, can it make it mandatory, the immunization?
I would think that there should still be the individual freedom of a person to be immunized or not to be immunized, because
So
it already goes into the right to privacy of a person, Your Honor.
yes, but if he will not allow himself to be immunized, and he gets the virus, he will spread it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So
But
you are not protecting the majority of the population.
there is still other ways to prevent the spread of the virus, Your Honor.
I
And
see.
that is already a very intrusive way of preventing the virus from spreading.
So that is not a compelling state interest.
Well, to me, Your Honor, that is not, because it is already it already involves intrusion into the private affairs of a person.
Where do you draw the line?
Well, if, for example, it's regulation and at the same time imposition that would affect the private rights of the person.
Private right, their liberty,
Yes,
their
Your Honor.
liberty to spread the disease.
No, I don't think so, Your Honor. It would not go to that, because liberty should always be viewed in its
There are limits. There are
yes,
limits. No,
yes,
correct?
yes, Your Honor.
Oh, for example, right to travel, there are limits, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, what are the limits to right to travel?
There should be a proof that one is not affected by COVID-19, and there should be a quarantine, and
Generally, in the Constitution, not referring to covered COVID-19, uh, what is the rule? What is the exception?
well, the general rule is
If you just remember, you're not teaching constitutional law.
no, Your Honor, no.
What do you teach?
I teach persons and family relations, Your Honor, and legal ethics.
I see. Oh, okay.
Well, the general rule is the right to mobility, the freedom of travel, but the exception would be the imposition of regulatory measures for purposes of preventing the danger that that the state would like to prevent.
What are they?
The in times of pandemic, Your Honor, just like today.
Yes. Public health.
Yes, Your Honor, public health.
Also public security, right? Safety, right?
Yes, Your
Right?
Honor.
Yes.
Yes, Your
The
Honor.
Constitution. Oh. You have read the case of uh, the one mentioned by Judge uh, Ilaw. Oh, that that was on warrantless search.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, I will ask you something close to your heart. This was a case which happened in Dilawag International Airport. In the case written by Chief Justice uh, Peralta, in the case of People versus Auckland, it described two situations of warrantless search or administrative search. What are those two? happened in Lawag. And it was written by your kababayan, the Chief Justice. And was he your professor?
No, Your Honor.
Ano?
No, Your Honor.
Uh,
I I cannot remember the two kinds.
this People versus Oakland. Now, can you remember?
No, Your Honor.
People versus Oakland. No, you just go back to the website of Supreme Court, look for that.
Yes, Your
Oo.
Honor.
And then you said you read, what was the latest decision that you were able to read regarding land registration?
I simply skip cases regarding land registration, Your Honor.
But you are applying in the Court of Appeal, so
Yes,
you'll be
yes,
reviewing decisions of
yes, yes, Your Honor.
RTCs having original, having deciding original registration of lands. Because in Manila, the cases are usually subsequent proceedings already.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you can remember the three basic requirements when you're allowed to register a land. What are those three, if you remember lang?
You have here the land has been declared an alienable land of the public domain. Then another one, the possession of the registrant can be counted since time immemorial. Then I only two that I could
I'll
remember.
guide you. Oh, what is the nature of the possession?
The possession must be open. It must be continuous. It must be
Notorious?
notorious.
What else?
And in the concept of an owner.
Okay, you said from time immemorial. There is
Yes.
a specific date under
Uh,
our laws. What is that date?
well, the only thing I could remember, Your Honor, is
131.
I could remember 40 years.
Ano yun? Extraordinary possession refers to extraordinary possession. Oh,
I could not remember the.
you cannot remember? It's 1945.
Yes.
Oh,
That was
what
actually
evidence do you need to prove that the property has been segregated as disposable or alienable?
Well, there should be a law passed by Congress segregating the land of the public domain to be an alienable land, and at the same time,
Or a presidential proclamation.
yes, Your Honor.
Right? Oh. But what do you present in court to prove that it is already disposable and alienable?
Well, there should be. Uh, I would believe that there should be a certification issued by the land registration that it is
Land
land
authority or register of deeds or what?
in as much as it is the first time that it is registered, it must be the Bureau of Lands, Your Honor.
It should be by the Secretary of Natural Resources. Okay. And the date, I did that, you remember it? June 12, 1945 or earlier. The bona fide claim of ownership must be since June 12, 1945 or earlier. Okay? Judge, that will be all.
Yes.
Good
Thank you, Your
luck.
Honor.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank
You
you.
read the latest cases pa rin, you continue reading them.
Yes, Your Honor.
That the case I mentioned was promulgated only last October.
Yes, Your
But
Honor.
it is just a reiteration. It was just a reiteration of old cases.
Yes, Your
Oh,
Honor.
oh.
Yeah, thank you, Your
Sige,
Honor.
Judge.
Sige po.
Sige, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Ni Chip agungit king ka, hamo bas-basahin tete kaso na.
Nako, sige. Sige. Sige, Your Honor. Nagyaman akin ka.
Sige. Okay, your excuse.
Thank you very much,
Sorry.
Your Honor, Justice Mendoza. That brings to a close the public panel interview of Honorable Judge Philip A. Aguinaldo. Thank you and Godspeed, Judge Aguinaldo. Your Honors, to be interviewed next is Honorable Judge Rowena M. Apaw Adlawan, Judge of the Regional Trial Court, Branch 13, Davao City. She is an aspirant for the position of Court of Appeals Associate Justice. Good afternoon, Judge Adlawan. The first to ask you questions is Honorable Judge Franklin J. de Monteverde.
Thank you, Attorney Ann.
Welcome, Your Honor.
Judge Rowena.
Your Honor, yan, okay na po.
Judge Rowena.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I can still, yeah, okay. Good afternoon, Judge Rowena.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Okay. Nakakadihan Davao?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, how's Davao now?
GCQ po kami.
GCQ. Akala ko ECQ.
Wag naman po. Tumataas pa rin po yung number
I was
namin.
watching GMA kagabi. Still number 1 ang Davao sa COVID cases.
Oo nga po. 97 yesterday po.
97. But Davao is still safe.
Yes, yes sir.
It's only on the COVID that you have a problem there.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sige. You are applying for the Court of Appeals?
Yes, Your Honor.
Only the Court of Appeals?
That's true, Your Honor.
I was looking over your credentials, your work experience, and given your work experience, you could have applied for the Sandigan Bayan at the CTA. What the reason for not applying with the other two appellate courts?
For me, Your Honor, because if God will favor me, I will be appointed in the Sandigan Bayan, it would be very difficult for me since the base is in Manila, while if I will be appointed in the Court of Appeals, the base will either be in Cebu or in Cagayan, and Cagayan would be my preferred place, Your Honor, considering that it is but a 4-hour ride from my place.
There is also that possibility that should you be promoted, you will be stationed in Manila.
That is true, Your Honor, but
okay. Now, in 2016, you were interviewed by the JBC regarding your application to the Supreme Court.
yes,
And
Your Honor.
there was one you applied for it, noon, 2016.
I
was
applied
still not in the JBC that time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anyway, you were quoted to say that you acquitted 7 accused out of 10 drug cases. Tama ba ito?
Yes, Your Honor, in the past, yes. Even now, the percentage of my acquittal rate is still high.
By the way, what kind of court are you presiding?
Presently, Your
Specialized
Honor,
court or general court?
Presently, Your Honor, I am the presiding judge of a drugs court exclusive and also the acting presiding judge of Branch 11, a court of general jurisdiction.
Okay. Mm. So what can you say about the president's war on drugs? Is it effective? Has it been effective?
Under my point of view, Your Honor, yes, it is effective. From the point of view of one coming from Davao City, I believe it is effective. So much so that we are lucky that the president came from our place and that members of the law enforcement are emboldened. They are striving hard to go against drug dealers in our city. That's the reason why my court and the other court, which is also a drugs court, have a higher number of caseload, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, in resolving drug cases, did you find any difficulty in it, in penning such decision or resolving such cases?
Yes, of course, Your Honor. I believe every case is a unique one. Every circumstance is a unique one. But then, there are several instances that much as I'd like to convict and accuse because I believe that he is indeed a drug dealer, a drug peddler, and etc. However, because of the technicality of Republic Act 9165 and it's a mandatory law, our hands are tied on that matter, Your Honor.
So what could have been the greatest obstacle that you encountered in resolving drug cases?
Most of the time it's on the application implementation of section 21 of Republic Act 165 on the chain of custody rule, much more so on the amendatory law. Although under the amendatory law, it's more easy now because in the past there's a requirement that the witnesses who will attend the conduct on the inventory must be 3, but at least now we only limit to 1, namely the barangay kagawad who must always be present, and the other one would be representative from the National Prosecution Service or from the media.
Okay. Now, it was said that measuring judicial independence requires one to examine whether the court will act against the political branches in salient cases. Is this true?
I believe so, Your Honor. But it does not mean that when the judiciary or a judge for that matter who will go against the mandate of the current administration does not mean that the judiciary is arrogating upon itself its superiority, but what it does is only to uphold the supremacy of the Constitution. That the judiciary must be an independent body.
So, Judge Rowena, tell me about a professional or personal goal that you had set but failed to reach it, but failed to attain it, if any.
Candidly, Your Honor, it has always been my dream. Since I joined the judiciary in 2007, it has always been my dream that there will come a time that I will be joining the Court of Appeals or the Sandigan Bayan for that matter. However, I have failed so many times, Your Honor. Unfortunately, God did not favor upon me the desire of my heart. That's why this would be my last attempt.
You have filed several applications before?
Yes, Your Honor. I topped the shortlist during the time that I applied for the Deputy Ombudsman for Mindanao, but during the time, the benefits coming from the judiciary and the ombudsman was not yet the same. And then I applied for so many times for the Court of Appeals and even for the Sandigan Bayan, but my focus really is more on the Court of Appeals.
Okay. So how did you feel when you were not appointed? Frustrated, disappointed.
Yes, of course, Your Honor, I was disappointed to the point that mangluod na ako sa Ginoo. But I came to realize that if it is meant to be, then nobody can prevent, nobody can say no if it is God's will. But just the same, I will hold to it that
Okay.
it's God's protection for me.
Mhm. So you are now the presiding judge of RTC Branch 13 in Davao
Yes, Your
City.
Honor, that's correct.
And how long have you been there, Judge Rowena?
I've been there in more than 6 years, Your Honor, because I used to be the acting presiding judge when Judge Rubilio retired. So aside
See,
from the court in Tagum, where I was I was the presiding judge of Branch 30 in Tagum City, I also took over when Judge Rubilio retired. I think you know him, Your Honor, since
yeah, so
palagabatch kayo.
we were neighbors in Davao and we grew up together. Kababata
Okay.
ko. Judge Dodong Robilio.
Yes, he is happily
Yeah.
happily retired, and I believe his love life is
So,
still
to
okay.
Lilian, he remarried to Lilian
Yes, that's
upon
correct.
becoming a budo. We were together in Manila when after he got married with Lilian. Anyway, a review of your records shows that you have been to varied work stations: judiciary, private practice, prosecutor, even DAR. So with this kind of experience that you have, what lessons did you learn anything from it?
So many. Yes, I've learned so many lessons from the various experiences that I had, though difficult considering my past. I struggled much, but the thing is, I am happy. I am quite happy because I have the support of my family in whatever endeavor that I am having, Your Honor. The lessons that I have learned during these times, during those experiences, is that uh, it's not difficult for one to choose or decide one thing if you know what your values are.
Mhm. So when did you graduate from the College of Law?
I graduated in 1994, Your Honor.
94, and immediately you took the bar exams.
That's correct, Your Honor. As a working student, Your Honor.
And you passed it in 1995. You were admitted,
Yes,
rather.
yes, Your Honor.
So where did you finish your College of Law?
In Ateneo de Davao University, Your Honor.
Mhm. How about your pre-law? Where did you take it?
I took my AB Political Science in Divine Word College, Tagbilaran City, now Holy Name University. I
Yeah,
am
that's
a
what I was
Bicolana.
thinking of. That's what I was thinking of, because there's no Divine Word College in Davao. So
Yes,
it's somewhere in the eastern part of the Visayas. Mm. How come when you took up law at the Ateneo High School, Davao City High School, how come that you took your pre-law at
my
the
father,
Divine Word College?
my father is a true-blooded Uhlano, Your Honor. That's why he sent me there. He sent me
Okay.
there for 4 years.
So so he's a descendant of the Gohoy, yeah?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, yes, Rowena. What kind of personality do you have?
Uh, I am a feisty judge, Your Honor, and people here, lawyers here, consider me as a monster judge or a terror judge. Perhaps because it is attributed to me during court hearing, seeing to it that the rules are followed, and I do not want any lawyers appearing in my court to be not ready.
How is your relationship with your peers?
Fortunately, I have a good relationship with my co-judges, Your Honor. We are in good terms with our executive judge. I am presently the second vice executive judge of Davao City, and also with the other judges, and so with our rank and file employees, Your Honor.
Even with your employees, you have a good relationship with them.
That's correct, Your Honor.
But are you sensitive?
You know, Your Honor, in the past, I do not like my staff to be absent just because they have coughs or they have colds. However, things changed when I was hospitalized last year. I was too arrogant to say that I am always in good health, but that's not always the case. Now I learned, I learned that everyone has to take a leave. Everyone has to rest. I used to be a very workaholic person, but God is showing me that He is in control and I am not.
Why were you hospitalized, Judge? Ngano man?
I undergone surgery in my intestine, Your Honor, and according to my surgeon, I had an intussusception, and the cause of it is stress.
Okay. But you're not diabetic.
No, Your Honor, and it turned out that my after the biopsy, it was benign.
Okay. So what other ailments do you have apart from that?
No other, Your Honor. No other.
I would say so because your records here, medical record says that you are medically fit to perform your duties as such.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you have been with the drugs court, Judge Rowena. Can you explain this chain of custody doctrine?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, what is it?
The chain of custody, as laid down under Section 21, in a gist, would require the court to observe, and that it must be observed by our policemen, that the integrity and the evidentiary value of the drugs seized or confiscated by them should be preserved. So much so that there must be no alteration and etc. And in order to establish that indeed the corpus delicti has been established.
Okay, what about this exclusionary principle?
The rule on exclusionary principle is that when an evidence is seized by our law enforcement, and the same is unlawfully seized or confiscated, it cannot be admitted in evidence being a fruit of the poisonous tree.
Okay, now what can you say about the executive privilege? What is it?
Well, the executive privilege, Your Honor, would give the executive department not to appear in any proceeding called upon by the legislative body. Invoking that privilege, they cannot be compelled by the legislative through the contempt power of the legislative branch to appear in a proceeding held for that purpose.
Are you familiar with this heckler's veto?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I am not familiar with it.
Okay. Just review this, that what a heckler's veto is. And let's go to archipelagic doctrine. What is the archipelagic doctrine about?
The archipelagic doctrine, Your Honor, means that the water around constitutes the ABCD. The water around the breath surrounding the Philippines constitutes the archipelago of the constitutes the archipelago of our country. That is the archipelagic doctrine.
Okay. Now, is discovery alone enough to effectively occupy a certain land?
One of the modes of acquiring ownership of a particular land is discovery. However, subject to the rule that it is not being owned by anybody. So it's the one who will discover it is the first one who discovered it, not by anybody else.
So what must be done in order to vest a title and attestation of the same?
To
In order
claim
for
ownership,
the occupation will be effective.
the it must be actually occupied by the one who discovered it, and then it must be registered, whatever body that would cater to the rule that you are the occupant or the discoverer of the said particular land.
So will the occupation be done in a reasonable time or after some time?
Your Honor, as much as possible, the occupation must be, I believe, is immediate, actual.
Okay. Okay, last question, Judge Rowena. What is Talweg doctrine?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with it.
Sige, that was
Very
my last
difficult.
question.
Thank you,
Research
Your
on it.
Honor.
So, research
Yes,
on
Your
it.
Honor.
What is it all about? Okay,
Thank you,
sige.
Your Honor.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
And
sir.
good luck, good luck. And regards kay Dodong, Judge Rubilio.
Yes, I will do
Okay,
it. Yes.
sige. Stay safe.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Judge de Monteverde. Now
you,
is the
Mr.
turn
Yan.
of Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Biham to interview Honorable Judge Adlawan.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Ann.
Welcome, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon, Justice.
You like easy or difficult question?
Easy, Your Honor.
Easy. Right.
Easy round.
You seem to be a type A personality.
Oh, I do not know that, Your Honor.
You are goal oriented. Now, tell me something about yourself. What are the things that make you happy?
With my age, Your Honor, that I am 50 years old, that one thing that would make me happy will always be that my family is safe, that they are always healthy, and that God will protect the four of us.
And what are the things that make you sad?
The things that would make me sad, generally, Your Honor, is that especially on the health of members of my family. That's the most primordial thing that I am cherishing it right now. And the second thing is that I am sad because of what's happening now. Things are not normal, and I do not know if we can go back to normalcy by next year. And I miss doing those things, ordinary things that I took for granted of.
And what are the things that make you angry?
I used to be angry, Your Honor, when during trial, in the performance of my function, lawyers lie, witnesses lie, and they would bungle cases. That would make me angry. And it would also make me angry if members of my family or relatives of mine whom I'm giving advice would defy or do something that in accordance with the law.
Do you think the community quarantine being implemented in the Philippines, which is similar to a lockdown, is it valid and constitutional?
Yes, I think so, Your Honor. It is valid. It is constitutional. It's the restraints right now are merely temporary, I believe. So, the state, the government has every right to protect us. Since this is a public health emergency, the lockdown, if it is necessary, and I believe it is necessary, it should be proper, should be undertaken, and everyone should follow it.
The mandatory wearing of a mask, is it valid and constitutional?
I think so, Your Honor. Yes, I think so. It is for the safety of everyone. That is for the safety of everyone. Not only face mask, but also face shield. That's we require that in our Hall of Justice now.
Mandatory immunization or vaccination once the COVID-19 vaccine is made available, is it valid and constitutional?
Well, in other countries, Your Honor, it's mandatory. It's mandatory. Like in Finland, it's mandatory. They require every citizen to be vaccinated. But for me, I believe people should be respected on what they believe. For example, people who believe like the what religion is that? The Jehovah's Witnesses who does not want to be vaccinated, I believe they do not. There's a claimor that they do not want to be vaccinated. I think the government should also respect on that matter. But generally, for me, I even told the other people here, the city health officials here, that I want to volunteer for a trial if there would be a trial here in the Philippines.
So you think it's valid, mandatory?
Yes, 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 Your Honor.
So it's mandatory, it's valid. So whether it be the wearing of a mask, community quarantine, and mandatory vaccination, you said it is constitutional. What is the constitutional basis?
Well, the right, we have to establish that the people has the right under the Bill of Rights to be protected by the government. The government is duty bound to protect us, not only from terrorism, not only from the rebels, but also with this pandemic. We ought to be protected by the government, Your Honor. We have the right to demand from the government that we be protected from this pandemic.
Is it your belief that because of the period of pandemic, because of public health issues, there is room to mitigate or to set aside certain constitutional rights?
I believe so, Your Honor. Yes, I believe so. For example, in our province, you cannot enter our municipality if you will not submit a travel manifest. And that is fine with us because that is also the right of every municipality or province to protect the interests, the health aspect of the community. Or here, in particular in Davao City, that Davao City will be enforcing DQR. I believe the city government has every right to do that in order to protect the citizenry in our locality.
Last week, the United States Supreme Court struck down the health protocols issued by New York, barring or limiting the number of participants in churches as well as in synagogues. In the case of Roman Catholic Diocese of New York versus Como, by a vote of 5-4, the United States Supreme Court struck down that regulation being violative of the freedom of religious belief. Do you concur with that decision?
In Philippine setting, well, that is in the U.S. setting, but for me, in the Philippine setting, I believe that while it is true that every person has the right to religious freedom, however, such right is always subject to the limitation imposed by the state. So, like for example, in our church, we do not anymore congregate, or if we congregate, the number of persons will be limited, is limited now. And for me, that would be fine with me, fine with us, because the number of people who would go there, who would get inside the church, and study shows that milling around, conversing with them, making a fellowship with them in such a crowd is detrimental to our health, knowing the fact that the virus will be carried by one person to another. So for me, the limitation to attend a religious ceremony because of this pandemic is constitutional.
In your opinion, is physical health more of paramount importance than spiritual health?
The spiritual health, Your Honor, is beyond the realm of the government. That's what I believe. But the physical health, the mental health, I believe, can be within the grasp of our state as to whether or not a person believes in God. That is his obligation to the highest being.
You're saying that the power of government to regulate activities or the freedom of its citizens is absolute in a time of pandemic?
Candidly, Your Honor, that is what I believe. To protect the citizen, the state must use its arms. Yes, I believe so, Your Honor.
And if a vaccine is already made available, and if government mandates mandatory vaccination, does government have the authority to arrest people who refuse to be vaccinated?
Well, my contention earlier, Your Honor, is that if there are people who would invoke religious freedom, religious belief, that's why they do not want to be vaccinated, it is my contention that more or less the government should respect on that matter. So while it may be mandatory to everyone, it might be mandatory to everyone, but however, there must be some leeway seeing to it that the religious freedom will also be respected. Just like what I have said earlier, some sector, some denominations do not want to be vaccinated. That's what I heard. The same should also be seen by the government in order to weigh the right of the state as well as their right of religious freedom.
Let's go to another topic. Do you think the Office of the Solicitor General has authority to intervene in the pet case of Marcos versus Robredo in the Supreme Court?
It is my opinion that the Office of the Solicitor General has no authority to intervene in the pet petition now pending, Your Honor. My basis would be that it's a private matter between the whoever wins or who the winner or the loser. So much so that what would then be the interest of the Office of the Solicitor General on the matter? Why would the OSG intervene on that particular matter? Because if the OSG intervenes, it's either he is for Robredo or he is for Marcos. And what I believe is that the Office of the Solicitor General should remain neutral on that matter, Your Honor, as long as there has been no decision from the PET who the winner is.
But the Solicitor General argues that he is the tribune of the people, and the people who participated during the last elections are interested to know the results, the actual results of the election with respect to the vice president. Is that not sufficient legal standing to intervene?
I still believe, Your Honor, that it should be left, the case should be left between the two contending parties, and that the Solicitor General should come in only in the event there is already a ruling as to who the winner is.
What do you understand, Judge, by aberratio ictus?
Oh, yes, mistake in the blow, Your Honor. It's in we discussed that in Article 4 of the Revised Penal Code, Paragraph 2.
How is it different from error and persona?
Well, in error in persona, Your Honor, error in persona comes in when a person hits somebody mistakenly. There is a mistake in the identity of the victim.
What is the Bill of Rights, Your Honor?
Your Honor, Bill of Rights are those stated under Article 3 of the Constitution. Article 3 lays down the foundation on what a nation should be and what citizens should expect from the government.
Is the enumeration in the Bill of Rights exclusive?
For me, Your Honor, the enumeration under Article 3 of the Bill of Rights, for me, it's exclusive because we cannot expand it more, otherwise we are violating already the Constitution.
You are a very assertive judge. So do you tell litigants and lawyers that for me, this is the law? Is that what you tell them? Well, somebody is claiming the enforcement of a right which is not listed among those in the Bill of Rights. That right is not demandable. That right is not enforceable. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor. So how can there be a justiciable? How can there be? How are we going to resolve it when the claim is not based on the law, not based on the rules?
Supposing, Judge, an accused was arrested by members of the barangay Bantay Bayan while urinating in front of his workplace. So he was arrested. He was urinating in front of his workplace. He was searched and marijuana was recovered from him. Argues in court that the marijuana is inadmissible in evidence because the arrest was illegal. Is he correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe he is correct. By what right does he have to freeze the accused when what the accused has violated was only for urinating? So, if there is an ordinance for that matter, I do not know. If there is an ordinance for that matter, then he can be indicted for it, but not to the point of frisking the one who urinated. So, but I have one case in my sala, Your Honor, and that's what also happened. I acquitted the accused on the ground that the shabu that was taken from his possession is covered under the exclusionary rule.
What is the attenuation doctrine?
The attenuation doctrine, Your Honor, I do not know, but if it is the same as the attenuating circumstance, so perhaps I can answer that. It's covered under the Revised Penal Code, that attenuating circumstances, if present, will somehow mitigate one's criminal liability.
Supposing a building is under surveillance by drug enforcement agents. So it's under surveillance. And then somebody comes out of the building, goes to the parking lot, and he was accosted by the police, and the police asked for his identification, his ID. So he gave his ID. It's there, Juan de la Cruz. And the police check it with their headquarters, and the police discovered that he has a pending traffic violation citation. Okay? And he was searched. And while he was being searched, there was a warrant of arrest. While he was being searched, drugs were found in his possession. The question is, are the drugs admissible in evidence?
No, Your Honor, it's not admissible. There's already a decided case on that matter.
Why not?
In the first place, frisking him is not valid. There is no probable cause to frisk him. The only way for one to be frisked is that
Police found that he has a pending warrant.
but I think, Your Honor, the warrant of arrest was only for violation of a traffic ordinance. So
You're
if it
saying
is on,
the police, did the police have lawful cause to stop the person?
no, Your Honor, the policemen, the law enforcement people there have no right to stop the accused. Anything that is recovered from him would also be inadmissible.
Did the police have the right to ask for his identification?
Yes, yeah, that's correct, Your Honor, but only for that purpose of asking for his identification. But for frisking him, it's no longer covered.
And did the police have a right to check with headquarters about this person?
Yes, the policemen have the right to do that, Your Honor. It's simple.
And when the police officers were told by headquarters that this person, Juan de la Cruz, has a pending warrant of arrest, did the police have a right to search the person?
I still believe that policemen have no right to search the person. If, in the event of serving the said search warrant upon him, and that's the time that the policeman frisk him in order for the policeman to be sure that he has no concealed weapon, then I believe so. If he is in possession of an illegal drug, by the time I would say that the policeman have every right to seize it.
Did the police have a right to arrest him because there is a pending warrant of arrest?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, if the police said lawful cause to arrest him, did the police have a right to search him?
Yes, in the course of the arrest, the policemen have every right to search him.
Okay, so you just researched on the meaning of attenuation doctrine. Thank you, Judge,
Yes.
for your time.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Justice Liham. The next to interview Honorable Judge Adlawan is Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilaw Jr. Your Honor, please. Judge?
Mute.
Good
Okay na?
afternoon, Your Honor.
Yes po.
Ay, wow. Tired. Thank you, Atty. Yan.
Welcome, Your Honor.
Yes, good afternoon, Judge Rowena.
Good afternoon po.
Mebrano Apaw Adlawan. So Apaw in Tagalog means full. Is there a meaning of Apaw in Bisaya?
I cannot think of any, Your Honor. Apaw for APAW yata yun, Your Honor, but APAO yan.
Apaw. Pero about this Adlawan, this is a Bisayan
term?
I think so, Your Honor. They came from Cebu.
Adlaw. Adlawan means daily. Oh,
Yes, yes.
adlaw ka ng adlaw. A little Bisaya na ano. Did we meet already, Judge Adlawan?
Yes, I applied before, Your Honor.
You applied for what position?
I applied before the Court of Appeals.
That was yes, previously interviewed for Court of Appeals on April 12, 2018.
Yes, Your Honor. I also applied last year, but I withdrew.
You withdrew your application.
Yes, Your
For
Honor.
what position? For what position?
Court of Appeals still.
But I heard that you also applied as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
That was my first attempt. Yes, Your Honor. I also applied. I live in the dark. Suntok sa buwan.
Tagalog na Tagalog yan, di na Bisaya yan, Daya. Suntok sa buwan. Why did you withdraw your application as an associate for a position as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court?
I did not withdraw, Your Honor, but the one that I filed the withdrawal is on 2019 application for Court of Appeals.
All right. How would you rate yourself as an RTC judge? It's a giveaway question.
Knowing my performance, Your Honor, I would say that I belong to, if 10 is the highest, I belong perhaps in number 7.
Number 7. So from 10, you consider yourself number 7 with a rate of 7?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
But do you think that you manage the disposal of your cases efficiently? That is 38.14% of cases disposed in the past 5 years, as shown by the PDS.
Yes, Your Honor, I think so. I believe my court is one of the courts in Davao City that has a lower docket. Although at present I have a higher docket in view of the fact that our court operation is affected by the several times that we have been in lockdown.
Correct. Also, on our records, that what happened to the case filed against you by a certain Diosdado Manungas for manifest partiality, gross ignorance of the law, and knowingly rendering an unjust judgment in 2014?
I think that case, Your Honor, was motu proprio dismissed by the Office of the Court Administrator. I was not even required to answer that.
You disclosed this in previous application, but not in this 2020 PDS. Why?
I do not know, Your Honor. I think I have, kasi parang IPI lang yata yun siya eh. But I think I failed to disclose it, perhaps. In the previous application, I think I have stated that. I cannot remember if I have stated that in my present application, Your Honor.
Are you not required to disclose all?
Yes, I have disclosed everything, Your Honor. Disclose everything.
Because in the last page of our PDS, there's such a collateral that in case there is such concealment or misrepresentation, your application will not be considered or will be considered as disqualified.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I think I missed it. Though in previous applications, I stated that perhaps because of the fact that I was, I did not even file an answer to that case.
Also, in your PDS, there are 5 criminal cases in your branch which were left undecided or unresolved within the reglementary period. Do you think that such delay violated the constitutional rights of the accused?
Ah, I have asked permission from the Office of the Court Administrator on that matter, Your Honor, because that was the time that I was hospitalized in September 28 up to January of 2020. I asked permission, and all those that have been enumerated have already been decided long time ago, Your Honor.
What again was your reason? I didn't get it from the previous question of my colleague. You were hospitalized?
Yes, Your Honor. I was hospitalized in September 28 of 2019. I undergone 3 major surgeries on my intestine. That was the reason that I asked for extension.
You mentioned the Secretary of Budget and Management, Wendell Abisado, and other notable personalities in your reference or references. Should you be nominated and later on appointed, and any of them seek your help in the appellate court, even when you are already nominated and appointed, how are you going to assert your independence?
In my experience, Your Honor, there has been no instance that my friends, especially those in the occupying higher positions in the government, have asked help from me or influence me or whatsoever. And I believe so that they have my friends, though they are occupying higher positions, know my principles, and that for the record, there has been no instance that some of my friends occupying higher positions have asked or influenced me or requested me to decide for them or for the other party or against the other party. I believe, despite our friendship, like for example, Secretary Abisado, who happened to be my ninong in the wedding, and my boss in the when I was still a private practitioner, and I believe that he will never do that. He knows me very well, and that there has been no instance that I have compromised a case because of friendship.
About Deputy Court Administrator Leo Madrazo?
Yes,
I
Your Honor.
understand he was once an RTC judge and now the Deputy Court Administrator.
Yes, Your Honor. He was a colleague of mine when he was still in the RTC here in Davao City. Now a Deputy Court Administrator. I don't think also I know he knows the limitation of how a judge or a associate justice, for that matter, do his job or her job.
Likewise, you mentioned Congressman Isidro Ungab, Congresswoman Corazon Nunez Malanyaon, Congressman Almario. Are you not comfortable without mentioning all these references who are politicians as well as secretary?
Well, they have been my friends. They have been my friends even before I became a judge of the RTC, and I see no I'm not ashamed of mentioning their names because I also asked permission from them if I can make them as my character reference. I believe, as I have said earlier, these friends of mine know me very well. There has been no instance in the past where they have asked for help in my capacity as a judge.
All right, let's go to fundamental questions of mine, and that's been already asked in the past previous applicants. What is the doctrine of judicial restraint?
Well, the doctrine of judicial restraint, I believe, Your Honor, is that judges, judges should restrain or refrain themselves from making statements that are pending in court, otherwise they will violate the rule on sub judice, or from making any acts that would somehow be perceived by the public as favoring one person or one party. It also, I believe, prohibits or discourages judges not to make any statement related to a controversy between the legislative and the executive department.
I'm not going to say whether you are correct or wrong. Can you just research on this? How about what is your concept of judicial temperament?
In my experience, Your Honor, judicial temperament should be every judges are encouraged to control, to have self-control, self-restraint during trial, in every dealing with the public. One's temper should not be go high, or one should not be hot-tempered during trials, so as not to make the impression that judges are in the position that are so arrogant and whatsoever.
All right, this is one elementary one. What are the three roles of a magistrate in relation to those who appear before his her court?
Well, number one, courtesy. Even if they are courtesy, two, we should show respect, and then another one would be to show them the rules. To show them the rules. These are the rules. You should follow it. But we are bound to it. And then the other one also would be to show impartiality in every aspect.
All right, kindly read the case of the administrative matter of Estrada versus Justice Badoy and De Castro. All right. If you could change anything about your current disposition as an RTC judge, what would it be?
Current disposition, Your Honor, at present, Your Honor, I am handling two courts, and it is my wish that I be relieved of the said court so that I can focus on my court where I am the presiding judge. So although this is not the first time that I have handled two courts, I have handled two courts before, but at present, considering the pandemic and the other health protocols that I have to observe, and considering also the fact that I am more careful than ever about my health, it is my wish that the idea of giving me additional court be changed, Your Honor.
All right, I mentioned about your references all coming from Davao. Now, why did you not put your reference a certain then Mayor Rodrigo Duterte? Does he know you personally?
Although we have attended together some regional peace and order council meeting before, Your Honor, but I cannot claim that Mayor Duterte knows me personally, although he has a case in my court when he was a city mayor before. I cannot assume, I do not assume, I will never assume that he knows me, Your Honor.
He had a case before you?
Yes, the city government represented by
The
him in
city
his
government.
capacity. Yes, Your Honor.
Now, in relation to the case of the president. What was the ruling of the court in Sabal et al. Versus Duterte?
No, I'm not familiar of that case, Your Honor, of Sabal versus Duterte, Your Honor. I'm not familiar on the name, but perhaps on the facts, perhaps.
Tarot, I can give you a hint where petitioners in the business of tourism in Boracay sought the nullification of proclamation number 475, closing down Boracay, their businesses allegedly being affected by the closure. Are you aware of this case?
I only
February 12, 2009.
I heard of that case, though I have that read through on the matter. Yes, it involves that lands
Yes, Judge.
in Boracay. Hello. Hello. Yes, and it involves lands in Boracay, Your Honor. Boracay being a tourism magnate of our country. What I believe, Your Honor, is that the president has every right, considering that the land is still part of the public domain. The operation of these resorts should be under the control and supervision of the executive department.
Your petition was dismissed by the court. For what reason or reasons?
That I cannot share with you, Your Honor, because I have not gone through the case.
You'll have 3 minutes. All right. Explain briefly the doctrine of qualified political agency. Oh, yeah. It is within comfort zone yan, ha?
The doctrine of qualified political agency, Your Honor, is a doctrine in political law, of course, wherein the secretary can act on matters. I mean, the president can delegate the matters to his secretary. The acts of the secretary would become the acts of the president under the doctrine of qualified political agency. Yeah, he is the secretary performing the function would become an alter ego of the president.
Okay, good. Yan, ha? Giveaway pala sa'yo yan, ha? All right. Let's go to another one. What's your spirit animal?
I am a dog, Your Honor.
A dog, why? Why did you choose being a dog?
Because I am more or less a Leo. My my sign is Leo.
Leo.
I was born under the year of the dog.
So that is your zodiac sign. And how would you decide on a case if you were from planet Mars?
That's a very difficult question, Your Honor. Very difficult.
Why?
I've never been to Mars. And I do not know if we have jurisdiction over Mars.
So the case will be here, but yet you're from Mars.
That presupposes that I am an alien, Your Honor?
Yes.
So if I am an alien, therefore everybody will be under my control, like a magic, etc. So perhaps, of course, it would be very difficult being not familiar with Philippine laws, especially if I supposedly come from the planet Mars. So matter of jurisdiction, how can there be jurisdiction? The issue on jurisdiction now will come into play.
All right, my last question, Judge. What question can you never honestly answer yes to?
What a very difficult question, Your Honor. That's a very difficult question.
How difficult it is? It's just so simple.
I think if my husband will say he will leave me, he will file a annulment on me, that would be a very difficult question, and I cannot just simply say yes or no.
Thank you. That's a very responsible and very.
Thank you,
Thank
Your
you,
Honor.
Judge, for your
Thank you.
time, just to enlighten your mood. We are already tired. You may be also tired. And again, thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Judge Ilaw. May we now request Honorable Justice Jose Cattrall Mendoza to conduct his interview of Judge Adlawan.
Good afternoon, Judge Adlawan. You are in
Good
Davao
afternoon.
now?
Yes, Your Honor, in my house.
House. Oh, very strong Wi-Fi connection.
My Sky internet connection has bogged down, Your Honor, and I am relying on a Globe Wi-Fi modem.
I see. You are applying only for the position of Justice, Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals,
Correct, Your Honor.
not Sandigan Bayan, not Court of Tax Appeals.
Correct, Your Honor.
So I will not ask you matters regarding CTA and Sandigan Bayan. Very easy, very elementary. What are the actions or remedies within the original jurisdiction of the Court of Appeal?
Well, the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals, Your Honor, is that it has original jurisdiction over cases decided by the regional trial court in its appellate jurisdiction. It also has jurisdiction over actions on under the anti-terrorism law. It has original jurisdiction over actions involving the effort of the government to determine whether a particular organization is a terrorist one. It also has jurisdiction, exclusive jurisdiction on original jurisdiction on matters of freezing one's asset under the AMLA law. It also has jurisdiction, exclusive jurisdiction on certiorari, petition for review on certiorari under Rule 45 and Rule 65.
Are those jurisdictions exclusive? I was asking only original.
Sorry, Your Honor. Original jurisdiction.
Yes.
Exclusive jurisdiction only insofar as far as I can remember.
You want exclusive, so let's go to exclusive only. Oh, you mentioned some. What else? Oh, in the rules of court. In the rules of court.
Well, the exclusive jurisdiction of appeals coming from the NLRC. That's all that I can remember, Your Honor.
Can remember. The NLRC is an executive body, administrative body, right?
It's a quasi-judicial body, Your Honor, that
Yes,
resolves.
and its decisions are final, right?
Yes, Your Honor, it's appealable. However, it's appealable to the Court of Appeals.
You call it appeal?
Uh,
When a decision is final, can you still appeal it?
I believe so, Your Honor. It can be appealed through by a certiorari.
So you question a final decision of the NLRC. If it is a final decision of the NLRC, can it be executed by the NLRC?
What I know, Your Honor, is that the decisions of the NLRC can be appealed to the Court of Appeals. Payment of damages, as far
Is
as
there
my
a mode? Is there a mode of appeal in the labor code?
what I know is what I
It is
know, Your Honor,
final.
is,
It is final. Diba?
what I know, Your Honor, is that even if decisions of the NLRC cannot be made final unless the 15-day reglementary period has already lapsed.
Appeal to what? Appeal to what? It is declared by law to be final. The labor code.
Your Honor, there are so many cases in our jurisprudence dealing on the where the Court of Appeals deal on the matter of the NLRC.
Even if it is final, the answer is it's final within. But you can question it via a petition for certiorari, not an ordinary appeal, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry, Your Honor.
On what ground?
When there is a grave abuse of discretion on the part
Yes,
of the.
that's the only remedy. Otherwise,
Yes, Your
you
Honor.
cannot. The law says it's final.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, when made the Court of Appeals receive evidence under the internal rules of the Court of Appeals, there are three major categories. What are they?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I am not familiar with the internal rules of the Court of Appeals, although that's the procedure that I am applying for.
Oh, you should be ready.
Yes,
Diba?
yes, Your Honor.
Oh, you should be ready. What are those? You have not practiced before the Court of Appeals?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I have not.
When you were practicing?
Yes, Your Honor. I have not.
Oh, sige. There are three major. Anyway, we will not cover that anymore because you did not read the internal rules of the Court of Appeals before
correct,
this
Your Honor.
interview.
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you prepare for this interview?
Well, considering my load in the Court, Your Honor, I hardly had time to prepare. But however,
You
the
should
past
be prepared.
2 days, I keep on reading the rules of court, the revised penal code, and some doctrine laid down.
Oh, you
Your
read the rules of court.
Yes, Your Honor. Part of it, under the new rules.
What in the Court of Appeals, rules of court, covering the Court of Appeals, what rule is under the Court of Appeals exclusive original jurisdiction? You said you
Exclusive.
read it. Oh, you said you read it.
Decisions coming from the RTC, Your Honor, that is appealed to the Court of Appeals under rule under ordinary appeal.
Exclusive original jurisdiction. I did not say appellate jurisdiction. When you go to the when you elevate a decision of the RTC to the CA, it is exercising its appellate jurisdiction. Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I am not so familiar with it.
You're not familiar. I thought you read it last night. What is annulment of judgment?
Well, annulment of judgment happens, Your Honor, when decisions coming from the MTC was made. It was made through fame. There was fraud, there was accident, and etc. Your Honor.
Are you sure of those grounds? Annulment of judgment or final order. Are you sure?
Yes, Your Honor, because when I was the presiding judge of RTC Branch 30, I have handled one case where the action is for annulment of
So I'll
judgment.
give you annulment of judgment under Rule 47 concerns only decisions of the RTC. Okay? So
Okay,
you
Your
stick to that so you will not get confused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh. What are the grounds? Still fame?
Yes, Your Honor, fame.
You stick to that. You are sticking to those grounds.
There is extrinsic the fraud, there is fame, there's fraud, there is accident. I cannot anymore remember, Your Honor. Extrinsic fraud. There was extrinsic fraud.
Only extrinsic fraud is correct. Accident, mistake, and excusable negligence
Yes.
are not. And the other one, what is the other one? There are only two.
When there's lack of jurisdiction on the part of the court.
Yes, so that is correct. What is intrinsic fraud?
Intrinsic fraud is
Yes.
Intrinsic fraud is
Distinguish it from extrinsic.
I cannot anymore remember the basic.
Oh, very basic. Yeah, diba? You are teaching law, remedial law.
I believe extrinsic fraud is a ground for the annulment of judgment. If there is a extrinsic fraud that is a ground for the annulment of
We
judgment.
agreed on that already. There are only two grounds, lack of jurisdiction and extrinsic fraud. My question now is, what is intrinsic fraud as distinguished from extrinsic fraud? What is intrinsic fraud?
I cannot remember anymore, Your Honor. What
You
is
cannot remember intrinsic? You cannot. I thought you handled the extrinsic fraud when you were at the RTC. Oh, where you are now? You're still there. Oh, where you are now? I thought you handled you came across extrinsic fraud.
There is extrinsic fraud, Your Honor, if the party was deprived of his right to be present.
So I'm not asking that. What is intrinsic fraud?
Intrinsic fraud. Cannot anymore recall, Your Honor. Intrinsic fraud.
You cannot recall. Oh, anyway, the fraud there is the very issue in the case. Anyway, what are the what is your understanding of the power of judicial review?
The power of judicial review
In the
Your
Constitution.
Honor, under Article 8 of the Constitution.
Yes.
The power of judicial review under Article 8 of the Constitution is the power of the court to review, settle actual controversies or involving rights which are legally demandable or enforceable.
Or you want to question it anti-terrorist law? There is still no violation of the law. What is the remedy?
I don't anymore remember, Your Honor, what would be the proper remedy if one will question a particular law even if there is no violation?
Yes. Anyway, I will answer it for you. Declaratory relief. Okay, declaratory relief. Now, if you want, a party wants to question a contract he signed, can he file? He wants to reform the instrument. Can he file a declaratory relief petition?
No, Your Honor, the best remedy there would be reformation of contract.
Yes. Can you not file an action for because declaratory relief is filed before you violate the law, correct?
But yes, sir. But
Or
declaratory.
you violate the contract. You cannot.
But for me, declaratory relief is only applicable if the petitioner is aggrieved of a particular ordinance or a particular law that is sought to be implemented by the government, while reformation of contracts would be available to a petitioner who seek to reform or amend provisions of the contract.
Are you sure of that answer?
I'm not so sure, Your Honor.
You're not sure. You review your Rule 63.
Yes, Rule 63.
Oh, okay. So you will learn a lot. What is the rule of law?
Well, the rule of law, Your Honor, signifies that everyone, especially those pillars of justice, must abide what the law says, what the rules says, and that nobody is allowed to take the law on his hands.
Okay, what are the 4 universally accepted principles of the rule of law?
No, I'm not so familiar with it, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You forgot?
Yes, sir.
What do you teach? You taught obligations and contracts, okay?
No, Your Honor.
What is natural law? What is natural law?
I'm teaching criminal law, Your Honor, for the past.
Oh, but
20
you taught
years.
you taught obligations and contracts. Natural law, there is a provision there regarding
Yes,
natural law.
Under the
You
civil
remember?
code, Your Honor.
Yes,
Yes,
you
Your Honor.
remember. Oh, what is that provision?
I think the provision of natural law deals on things that are
Stated there? What is it stated there?
things that are beyond.
I will guide you. It's covered under Article 1423. Okay?
Article 1423.
Yes.
Natural law. I cannot even remember that particular
Cannot
provision.
remember? Oh. What is
It's
natural law?
more-
What is your understanding of natural law?
Natural law refers on the obligation of every person to obligation of a particular of a person to do what is right and what is right and what is not right, Your Honor.
So, what is the provision under the civil code regarding natural law?
Just like what you said, Your Honor, it's all on
You forgot.
obligation at 1423. I cannot
Yes,
remember,
yes.
Your Honor.
You cannot remember.
More on equity.
Okay.
It's more on equity.
Yes. Anyway, you review 1423.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is very easy for you. What is solution indemnity?
Solution
You thought
indemnity.
this.
That was a long time ago, Your Honor, when I first became a lawyer in 1995.
Oh,
I'm not teaching obligations and contracts, but anyway, I will try my best. Solution indemnity, Your Honor, refers to a debtor, the relationship between a debtor and a creditor, so much so that the creditor should not be allowed to enrich himself at the expense of the debtor.
unjust enrichment.
Yes,
About
Your Honor.
negotiorum gestio.
My God.
Oh, you thought that also, di ba? You thought that?
Yeah, I thought obligations and contracts, Your Honor, that was in 1995. I only taught obligations and contracts for 1 semester when I am not yet married.
Oh, you
Negotiation.
were not yet married at that time now. So let us go. I think I heard you earlier. Uh, did I hear you right that you cannot mandate inoculation, compulsory inoculation? Did I hear you right?
But that's my point, Your Honor, that the government should respect the right of persons or group who does not want to be vaccinated or inoculated because
See,
they will exercise their right to freedom of religion.
the purpose of the state is to prevent the spread of the disease. So, is it not constitutional or is it not a constitutionally permitted regulation?
As what I have said, Your Honor, every person has the right to demand from the state that they be protected on their health. So that is
Can
why
they
I have.
can they state order the other persons to be inoculated so they will not spread the disease?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe so. That every person, if the state so warrants, every person should be inoculated or vaccinated.
So
Because
the
if
state
not,
can compel. So the state can compel
uh,
a person.
well, as I have said earlier, Your Honor,
Suppose the person says, "I have the freedom to be not inoculated. I have the freedom to be sick.
that's a problem because
It's my problem. It's my decision. Oh,
however,
but he
that's
will
that
harm others. But he will harm others.
precisely, Your Honor.
Oh, so
They have
what
the right
can
to
you
do
say?
something. They have the right to do something, but for as long as it will not affect us, then the state has every right to protect the majority.
So the interest of the majority prevails over the rights of the minority.
That's what I believe, so, Your Honor. But
That's
as
what
I've
you
said,
believe. Oh, you
that's,
mentioned earlier that the city of Davao had a case before you. What was that about?
it's a civil case involving non-formal settlers where the city engineering's office demolished certain informal settlers in one place in Davao City, Your Honor.
Oo. One case reached the Supreme Court. Do you know the case of Mosqueda versus the banana planters?
Yes, Your Honor. It's all about
Okay.
it's all about equal protection clause.
Yes. Oh. What was the ruling then?
Um, in that banana growers case, Your Honor, I believe the Supreme Court there ruled where the ponente was you, Your Honor.
Well, it's not the Bonente, it's Chief Justice Bersamin.
Chief Justice Bersamin. I believe it's all on the
You
harmful
forgot?
effects of the chemical.
You
Harmful
forgot
effects.
already? This
Some
fumigation? Oh, you forgot. Oh, let's go to the basic. The constitutional provision involved there is equal protection of clause of the Constitution. What is that? What is the constitutional provision on equal protection?
under Article 3, no law shall be passed
Hmm.
making a classification
Abridging, making
because under
classification, is that the word? Making
I do not
classification. Ah,
I cannot anymore recall the exact
you
provisions of the
cannot recall. Anyway, what are its essential elements? There are
there
only
must be
two.
yes sir
Yeah.
for it to be valid
What?
it must be germane to the purpose of the law. It must rest on substantial distinction.
You are
Uh,
answering something that I did not ask. Those are the requirements of a valid classification, so you can be exempt, correct?
yes,
Oh,
Your
but
Honor.
my question, my question is, what are its essential elements, the equal protection clause of the Constitution? I'm not
Um,
asking. An exception is a valid classification, and then you were giving me what you were giving me were the requisites. I'm not asking the requisites of a valid classification. I was asking what are the essential elements of that
uh,
uh, right to equal protection clause.
um, based on what I have, well, based on what I can remember, Your Honor, is that
Yes,
those who are similarly treated should be similarly, those who are similarly situated should be similarly treated.
that is the general concept. What are its essential elements?
Um, it must be applicable to all members of the same class.
Hmm.
That's
Anyway,
that's all.
okay, we will to be a valid qualification, you started reciting the requisites. Now, I will ask you. This is in Mosqueda case. No, you because you have read it. What is the test used to determine the reasonability of the distinction?
Uh, I think one of the tests would be
There is only
uh,
one test. So,
it
yeah,
must be it must not be limited to existing conditions. It must apply to future conditions.
those are the requisites again for valid classification. The test now is to determine reasonability of the distinction. I'm asking the test to determine reasonability of the distinction.
I I cannot give any idea to
You
that, Your Honor.
forgot, you forgot.
Ah,
It's the means and test. Oh, you read again the Mosqueda case.
yes, Your Honor. I will read that, Your Honor.
Okay. Oh, what are the levels of scrutiny mentioned in that case? I
The
thought it was a giveaway, Mosqueda. Davao, it
the
concerns Davao.
I believe the levels of scrutiny insofar as equal protection clause is concerned, Your Honor, is that there must be a rational scrutiny. There must also be
No,
a
the levels, there
strict
are three
scrutiny.
levels. There are three levels. Oh,
Yes, Your
okay.
Honor. The
Oh,
rational scrutiny,
the first
ra-
level is what?
rational scrutiny, Your Honor. Then
Rational.
we have the
And then
intermediate
the
scrutiny, and
strict. Yes. Oh,
yes, there's a strict scrutiny, Your Honor.
okay. Oh, what is the benevolent accommodation theory or neutrality theory?
Sorry, Your Honor, I'm not familiar with it, Your Honor.
Oh, Estrada versus Escritor. You have not read it.
No, no, Your Honor.
I see. Oh, how about you mentioned earlier the gaglo or the what is your understanding of the freedom of expression?
Well, that is the right accorded by the state, Your Honor, under the Bill of Rights, that
Mm.
one has the right to speak what is in their mind, and for as long as it will not be harmful to the other.
Yes.
We have the right to express ourselves in whatever form for as long as it is not against public policy, it does not involve public scandal, and etc.
What are its essential elements?
I cannot anymore state that, Your
Forgot.
Honor.
There are
Yes,
only
Your
two. Oh yeah, there are only two.
Honor.
I will give you I will name one. Freedom from prior restraint. What is the other? You can easily remember that.
I cannot remember, Your Honor. I
Have you
cannot
not
remember.
heard of freedom from prior restraint? Have you?
Yes, I have read
Yes.
that.
Oh, what is the other one? What is the other one?
As freedom of prior restraint would mean censorship, Your Honor. But the other one, I cannot state that, Your Honor.
Freedom from subsequent punishment.
Ay,
Oh, you forgot. Oh, what are the? Oh, sige, we're running out of time. Unless you want another hour. What are the limitations of the freedom of expression? Only
the,
under two general categories. What are those?
the limitations of the freedom of
Restraint.
uh,
Expression.
expression,
Yes.
basically for me, would limit to freedom. Limitation on the freedom of expression is that
There are only two
freedom of expression. Limitations on the freedom of
limitations
expression.
here. Anyway, one is content-based restraint or limitation, and the other one is what? I'm giving you a hint na eh. Oh, one is content-neutral government regulation, right? You remember now?
And the the clear and present danger limitation, Your Honor.
Clear and present danger limitation. That is the rule. Clear and present danger is a test. It is a test. One of the three tests. Oh, so you know clear and present danger rule. What are the two other tests?
The dangerous tendency.
Dangerous tendency. And what is the other one?
The other rule would be. I mentioned that in my lecture.
You lectured on that. Very good.
I cannot even remember, but I cannot even remember.
You lectured on that. You forgot.
But balance the balancing interest rule, Your Honor.
Oh, the three tests are dangerous tendency test, balancing of interest test. That is the second one, and the third is the clear and present danger test. Now, in espuelas versus people, what is the test used in the Philippines as initiated in espuelas versus people? You forgot. You lectured on it? No. Anyway, it's dangerous tendency rule. Oh, but it's an old case.
Yes, Your Honor. It's about
the other test. Oh.
No.
So I think that will be all, Judge. You're very tired already. Kapoy
Thank you,
na.
Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Kapoy na.
Mentally. Mentally kapoy na. Oh, sige,
Very difficult questions.
No, you've just forgot because you were, di ba, I said you were lecturing them.
In criminal law, Your Honor.
Oh, and then you read the Mosqueda case. So I'm giving you. Oh, and then you taught obligations and contract. Kaya niyo. But you are applying in the Court of Appeals and you did not read the
internal rules.
Internal rules. Oh. Anyway, you need further reading. Read and
yes,
read.
Sir.
Read. Oh.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that will be for today. That will be all, Judge. Good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're excused now.
Thank you, Judge Apaw Adlawan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can now leave.
Mendoza.
If you want, I can ask some more questions if you do not leave.
I will now leave, Your Honor.
Why? You do not want to answer anymore?
very difficult questions coming from you, Your
No.
Honor.
I'm just refreshing your mind because you were teaching them, you were lecturing on them.
It's as if I am in recitation. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank
Sige,
you.
thank you. Ano na, edit, si edit na. Edit.
Opo.
Oo, ano na kami? Pagod na.